So I'm delighted today to be with Julie Nicholson and Malcolm Blackwell. Julie from Dance Syndrome. And yeah, we're just going to have a conversation about the business of changing lives. So Julie, what do you do with Dance Syndrome?
So I'm Julie Nicholson. I'm the managing director of Dance Syndrome. I've been here since September 21, but I've actually been a friend of the organisation since 2010 when I met Sue and Jen when they were starting out on the Dance Syndrome journey. And I feel I've been a part of that over the years. I became a trustee in 2018 and then took on the role as MD like I said, in September 2021.
Wow.
And so nearly 2 years into that role now and really trying to take Down syndrome to the next level. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail.
We will. So Malcolm, what's your involvement?
Well, I'm Jen's dad, so that brings me in. And I helped set it all up and, and have been involved in the journey along the way. I think while I was working, more hands-off, and more sort of at the distance, but since I've stopped working and retired, much more involved in the background in just helping and maybe trying to bring my business experience into what Dance Syndrome does and bringing about the change that that we're all looking for. Yeah, that's where I.
So for anybody that's not familiar with Dance Syndrome, Dance Syndrome was set up by Jen and Sue Blackwell. And Jen has a learning disability. She has Down syndrome. And Jen is now 41 years old. So, and Jen
that makes
has
me feel old.
Sorry, it's true. Not that you're old, but Jen is 41. So, and Jen is a dancer. And Jen has always wanted to dance. And there was some struggles along the way after Jen attended mainstream school and wanted to continue dancing, and she couldn't find, and you as a family, Malcolm, couldn't find that way to help Jen do what she wanted to do in her life. And that's when you created Dance Syndrome.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think we've always viewed that, we've always tried to offer the opportunities to both of the kids, both Jen and her brother Anthony, and we couldn't find the opportunities for Jen. For Anthony, it was nice and clear. He was mainstream, A levels, university, and he was off. It was all set. The path is set, and quite clearly, you can see where it goes. For Jen, it was quite different in that we left school, and then, well, where do you go from here? Jen had the same desire and drive that Anthony had in terms of what he wanted to do. She had the same in what she wanted to do, but we couldn't find the avenue to do it. So in the end, as you say, we decided, well, really the thing to do was to do it ourselves. Hence Dance Syndrome and the last, 13, 14 years of what we've been doing. So, yeah.
So Dance Syndrome, Julie, is giving that opportunity for other people like Jen to have that opportunity to do what they love. Is that right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the starting point when Jen and Sue and Malcolm decided to set up was, let's just do a call out and see what response we get. And actually we're overwhelmed, I think, by the number of people that came forward. And the interest, particularly around its USP model, that the call out was to both disabled and non-disabled dance artists to come together. And the company was formed with 14 members, and an equal split of 7 dancers with disabilities and 7 without to start dancing together. And I guess that was also when the co-production model started, and that's been I guess the center of Dance Syndrome ever since then. Over the years, we've grown in terms of our community classes, and we reach around 300 people a week now, every week. But more so through performances, we reach 2,000 or 3,000 people through performances, touching lives all over the place.
Yeah, because you run online dance sessions as well as in-person sessions, don't you?
Yeah. So obviously everybody had to grapple with the pandemic, including DanceSyndrome. So we moved all of our face-to-face sessions onto Zoom. And what we found was we actually reached people around the world during that time. But there was a particular need once we came out of the pandemic to maintain some of those sessions. So we still run 4 sessions on Zoom as we have kind of come back face to face in Lancashire, but we were also growing the number of face to face sessions because the demand is so high in terms of what we do.
So in terms of because DanceSyndrome started off as an organization and then became a charity in 2013, and the challenges that charities in particular face and not-for-profit organizations, especially in a cost of living crisis, let's be honest, it's often the first thing that people go, no, I can't continue to commit to that. But that has a challenge when actually your purpose for being is changing lives in the community, and without you there would be a huge impact in the community for those people that you touch.
Yeah, I mean, we're told time and time again that provision that we offer does not exist anywhere else, and that people can't find it, that it's absolutely a lifeline. And when people have found us, they're just so grateful at having tried so many things, and very similar to Jen's journey of after mainstream high school, spending 10 years trying to find something like this and ultimately setting it up on her own. But yeah, definitely what we have does not exist anywhere else. And we know we've got really high statistics about softer skills that people gain in terms of confidence and teamwork, but also how it isolates loneliness and that actually people feel really connected and they're part of a family, essentially, and that just doesn't exist anywhere else. On top of that, there's all the health and well-being outcomes and the fact that people are being active, and dance is just fun. Like, it just gives you a good feeling when you dance. And as we say at DanceSyndrome, everybody can dance, and there's beauty and significance in everyone's movements. So
I think what's been interesting is over the years is just watching the development of the individuals involved as they've come along and developed and grown and changed, from somebody who would in the first session came in and would just sit and watch. And now if you go on, then this first tentative involvement, and now they are a core, fully participating, confident individual, and it's that growth also that is so good to see and worthwhile in terms of what the charity gives. Because as in a sense you can say it isn't just about the dance. The dance is a vehicle for what it brings, and a lot of that is about giving that, as Julie said, about the confidence and the purpose and that opportunity to really make a difference within the community and offer something back, rather than always being, if you like, seen as being a need. They're not a need. They've got real abilities, and those abilities can come through and be shown and make a real contribution, I think.
Yeah, and I think we've developed a leadership training course over the years which allows individuals to come along and then actually train to be leaders and gain all those transferable skills. But essentially what we're trying to do is put people with learning disabilities in visible role models, and then others that come along can see people like them and actually then think, well, I could do that, I could achieve that. If they can do that, I can do that. And that's another element, I guess, to what we're trying to do, and that gives purpose. We're not a regular dance class that people just come to week after week and you get enjoyment out of that. But actually, this is part of people's lives. These are adults, that this is part of their life. They're professional. They're coming week after week, and always striving for more. And we're looking at these progression pathways and how we can continuously develop people and develop their skills and and give them real meaning to what they do.
And there's some really good dancers within the group, you know, a lot of people who want to take it on to the next level. And of course, now we're seeing exactly the same, is where do they go? Where do they go from here? What are the opportunities for them, and how can we help them to do that? Because that's what you'd want to do. I think it's also the side where we're dealing with the likes of the NHS and with businesses where you're demonstrating, and they see the real value in what Dance Syndrome does, and showing that to a wider audience, and changing people's perception of what people with a learning disability can do, and changing their views of what they should expect. And I think from a, if you like, from a parent point of view, the other one for me is you offer hope, and you offer a glimmer of what the future can be like to people who, in the first few years, you know, if we're not careful, the medical profession can be very, very hard for somebody who has got a child with a disability. And I think that sometimes you can lose sight of what it really can be like, you know, and what life can be like. And I think Dance Syndrome is one of those organizations that shows that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we've been trying to reach out to all different audiences, and I think we've got some great partnerships, as Malcolm mentioned, with NHS and Public Health England, but, you know, trying to reach the general public. And we've been doing a roadshow of train station takeovers and kind of dancing in front of unsuspected passing commuters who wouldn't expect this, but actually we've been stopped in every single case by, exactly to your point, Malcolm, somebody who has a family member who has a learning disability, perhaps have even passed away now, and have told us stories that this kind of thing never existed, and, you know, how powerful it is. So it's, you know, we're still trying to reach more people all the time. But that's just, you know, one way that we've done it quite recently, quite successfully.
Yeah, and they're really powerful. I had the opportunity to go to one of the station takeovers, and just watching the audience's faces, you know, they're coming out of a station or coming into a station and going, oh, look, there's people dancing. Oh, look, there's people with learning disabilities. There's people with, you know, with Down syndrome. It's more, you know, obvious. There are a lot of people with learning disabilities that, you know, we don't know. We can't see it outwardly. And you have people with all sorts of needs within your community, within your dance community, don't you, Julie? So, you know, it's not always obvious. And I think that's one of the brilliant things that Dance Syndrome is teaching me, is that we don't know what's possible. But actually, what Dance Syndrome is doing is opening up opportunities to that possibility for everybody to reach their potential and to explore, you know, what they love, which, you know, for me is the, you know, one of the foundation parts of Dance Syndrome.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, we talk about dancers with and without disabilities, and try and ensure that we've got this fair and equal and equitable platform where we know that everybody has a voice. You know, the importance of the individual is so key to us, and every single person brings something different to the table, and everybody can learn from each other. And then that's how, you know, how we grow and give meaning and purpose to people being part of the organization.
It's a good point. I think if you look at the dance artists, we tend to talk about the dance leaders and therefore the people with a disability. But actually, if you turn and look at the dance artists, how they have grown and developed over the years as well, and how their skills have improved. And I think if you talk to any of them now, they wouldn't want to stop what they're doing. You know, it isn't something that they said, well, it's much more than a job. Let's put it that way around. In that sense, they don't come because it's a job. They come because they really want to do it, and that comes over in what they do and how they do it, I think. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things that is so brilliant about how the organization has grown organically, is this co-production. It's everybody has something to say. Everybody is important. And, you know, within the business world, Malcolm, you know, that's not always seen as valuable. with our organizational structures, and we've got to do it this way, we've got to do it that way. But, you know, this organization has grown organically by listening to the needs and the ideas of the people within it.
Yeah, but within business, one of the big mistakes businesses make is assuming that if you like, the manager knows best and the guy who's actually doing the job doesn't. You know, if you really want to get the best out of people, you have to listen to what they're saying. And the guy who knows how to do the job better than anybody else is the guy who's actually doing it. And you know, they're in a business, they are one of the, well, they are the resource. You know, if you look at a business, yes, it's got to have a product that people want and it's got to be selling it at a right price. But the real outstanding difference is the resource of the people that it's got within it that makes a difference, and how you harness that resource and use it properly. And I think with Dance Syndrome, it's about taking that, let's call them resources, there's taking all of that energy and enthusiasm and drive and skill and professionalism and changing people's lives. I mean, that's what it does. As we've said, it changes people's lives. It's, you look at the unfortunately the model of what some people expect from somebody with a learning disability, and you wonder, what do they get up in the morning for? You know, and for the guys who come to Dance Syndrome, we know exactly what they what to get up in the morning for, because they want to come and dance. And there's no reason why that can't be for a much wider and bigger audience than it is.
Yeah. We know in terms of our community dance sessions, you know, the process we go through is that a dance artist and a dance leader will spend an hour planning that session every single week. So there's a whole process that goes on, and then they go into the dance space and co-lead delivering the plan that you know they've worked on. In terms of our performance company, you know, there's 14 dancers at the moment with all different learning disabilities, and obviously our dance artists who have worked together through quite a rigorous process to put together a show that's going to go on tour now, both at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and across the Northwest. But that has enabled everybody's voices to be heard. So, you know, it's not come without its challenges, by all means, but it's an inclusive process. And in terms of Dance Syndrome as an organisation, you know, we always include the voices of people with learning disabilities. So an example was, as we were coming out of the pandemic, you know, there was an ask, you know, can we have Dance Syndrome face masks? And, you know, that came from the dancers. And recruitment wise, we always have a 2-stage recruitment process. And the second one will always include Jen and Peter, who has a learning disability, who are trustees, and being involved in that onboarding process of anyone that joins our organization. So we try and thread that throughout everything that we do. And I think that's part of the key to our success, really, as an organization.
Yeah, it is that inclusivity that I think is so important to it. But with it comes, as you said, it comes cost. That's, you know, as a charity, it's not a cheap model, the way in which we operate. But it's what's required, and it has huge benefits and makes huge delivery. And I think the other thing that we've learned over the years is that it isn't a project-based funding that you really need, although that's the way a lot of the grant organizations work. You need something that gives continuity. You need that longevity in the journey, because it is a journey, and it isn't, well, we can do this for 2 years or 3 years and then it all stops. What happens to all those people that you've impacted over those, you know, you've touched on them, you've raised their expectation and their skill levels, but then suddenly it stops? Well, you can't do that. So it's how you break away from the sort of 3-year grant cycle, and every 3 years it's got to be a different project, into something that actually brings you the longevity and the consistency that's required. And cost of living crisis makes getting donations harder, and but it also means that it's more worthwhile because it's needed more. So it's it goes both ways.
I think, you know, you asked a question earlier, TJ, about the fact that we are a charity, but I think we do operate in a business sense, because Absolutely. We do have a really diverse income stream, and we cannot ever become grant reliant. And I think, you know, historically, as we're growing, Down syndrome learned that as a lesson quite early on. And, you know, trying to do everything from, you know, selling selling ourselves to go and deliver workshops and do events, selling inclusion training, selling merchandise, running a lottery. There's a whole range of things, but you know, we have been going for 13 years now, so we have learned a lot along the way, and I think we can bring real value to businesses, particularly around, you know, inclusion training and what we've learned about working inclusively with people with learning disabilities. I think there's a lot of value that businesses would benefit from that, and thinking about our methodology, but how they might adapt that in their own work environment and their work practices. And that's a part of the business we want to develop more. But, you know, like I said, we've got 13 years experience now, so a really credible organization, going places and doing great things and being recognized by really like big players like NHS England or Public Health England, you know, a whole range of different audiences, but we know we still need to reach more. So
you need people who want to think outside the box, really. You know, if you think about training in it from a business point of view, the training in its sort of normal model, it misses so much, whereas the way in which Down syndrome would tend to bring it in would expands it, I think. But you need to be able to think outside the box a little bit to be able to take on what we do and think innovatively. But then that makes good business. I mean, showing things in a different way and being innovative is actually what you really want, and it's how you want your staff and your people to act. So I think there's a number of benefits of us going in, or the charity going in and giving that sort of training, getting people to really think much wider than the narrow, you know, we're here to do a bit of training. It's not just about a bit of training. This is much wider than that, and giving that that input would be really valuable. Yeah.
It looked like you were going to say something else, Julie, so I was just
No,
allowing you that space.
I was thinking about, yeah, no, I was reflecting on that. And yeah, I think, you know, we've learned so much from the people that we work with that we know that others would. But I think, yeah, to Malcolm's point, I think if organizations are aspiring to change and to be different and to stand out, then, you know, we can help them absolutely with that, and share our expertise, think about not just inclusion, but digging deeper and thinking about what is fair and equitable, and, you know, how you really, I guess, enable people to reach their full potential, because we do that all the time with the people that come to us. And from a business perspective, you want your employees to reach their full potential and do the best job they can. So I do think, yeah, we could offer a lot of value.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you do. You know, when you go and deliver, you know, a workshop or some inclusive training, it's not about ticking a box that we've done inclusion training, because what you deliver is changing the lives of those people in that room. So you're going to change the lives of those people in that room forever, because they are seeing what inclusion is and how everybody in society is valuable and has more potential if only we gave them that opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And accessibility as well. You know, ever since I've been here at Down syndrome, I notice it everywhere, in every walk of life. Is a place accessible? Is a form accessible to fill in? Any instructions, are they accessible? Can I follow them? And you do recognize like inclusion in a different way as well, like being included, thinking about how you include other people. So I think in business it'd be like, you know, how teams work well together. You know, every individual plays a part, but then how can teams actually effectively help move an organization forward?
Yeah. You've also got a whole population of people who do have a learning disability, that's an untapped resource. And if you can learn to tap into that resource, there's a huge, there's a huge economic benefit from being able to do that, as well as, I think.
Yeah, and what part of the pathway that we're trying to do is there an employability route for individuals with learning disabilities? So what we offer is keeping people healthy, it's keeping them out of hospitals, it's keeping them less dependent. And actually, can we give them something even beyond what we do? And we know that our leadership training offers such transferable skills. So, people might have an aspiration to go and work, just a few hours a week somewhere outside of Down syndrome as well. So we're kind of looking at that. And again, all of those individuals would bring such value to work environments.
Absolutely. And I think, what people often don't see, and it's the same with any growing business, is that, sometimes that there's new strands that you sort of take on because you go, actually, this is needed, and we're just going to go and do this over here, and suddenly it becomes the next big thing, but it's still needed and you're still making an impact. And it's like, well, how did that happen? We didn't plan for that, but that's just you being an entrepreneurial organization and innovating to support the needs of the people in the community where you're working.
Yes, Julie, as you said in the beginning, we started it for Jen. We were, I suppose, amazed that we got the response we did, and just how many people it impacted, and how many it continues to impact, because it's grown well outside of what we ever imagined it would be. It just shows you the power that it has in the way in which it operates.
And we hear time and time again, like I did say at the beginning, people don't know what they'd do if we didn't exist, because we are so different. It's fundamental to people's lives. We run all year round. We don't just run termly because, adults don't have school holidays like some of the world seem to operate. So, we're there all year round to offer our community classes and to have that provision. And we know people with learning disabilities are very they like a routine. They like to know week after week what they're doing, where they're going, and it's instilled in them. So, we would never want to take that away.
Yeah. So I think, we could probably talk all day, but, it's probably time to draw our conversation to a close. But, thank you for sharing. And it seems that there is so much that Down syndrome, does already offer, but can offer to other groups, other organizations, other businesses, in terms of, your training, your expertise, as well as, making an impact on people's lives in their communities. So how can people get in touch, Julie? What's the best way? Contact you directly?
You can contact me directly at Julie Nicholson at DanceSyndrome.co.uk. You can go on our website, which is www.dancesyndrome.co.uk. You could find us at Down Syndrome UK on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Or you can come down to see us at any of our locations.
Or the Fringe.
Come and see us at the Fringe. Come and see us at the Fringe in August.
Tickets are still for sale.
Tickets are still for sale. Yes, please get in touch.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I look forward to continuing the conversation, because I'm sure we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.